I cannot believe that it has been 10 years since Carly Rae Jepsen dropped Emotion. It is this album that has made her a cult favorite in pop circles and was done horribly dirty by the general public and whoever was running Interscope at the time. Today, it has emerged as one of the most acclaimed records of the 2010s and one that continues to enchant and influence both artists and listeners today. In this special 10-year anniversary video, I'm going to recap and recount one of the greatest pop eras that never were, talk about Emotion's tracks one by one, and just celebrate one of my favorite records of all time. So let's embark on the road to Emotion. Looking back, Carly Rae Jepsen's road was wild. Jepsen's first proper debut was through Canadian Idol, where she managed to finish in third place in 2007. She went on to sign her very first record deal and dropped her debut album, Tug of War, in 2008, 7 years before Emotion and 4 years before her true breakout. The album was a folksy, guitar-driven affair. It's a very far cry from her current alt-pop style. It wasn't until 2011, when she was working with co-writer Tavish Crow, that she really conceived her smashed single Call Me Maybe, which dropped in September of that year as the lead single of her Curiosity EP under 604 Records. This song was so catchy that it captured the attention of Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez, who had been visiting Canada in December of that year, causing Justin Bieber's then manager Scooter Braun to sign her onto Schoolboy Records, with Interscope getting the international rights. Call Me Maybe may have initially started as a folk song, but it eventually evolved into one of the 2010s most iconic pop hits. As her debut international single, it was a perfect mix of bubblegum pop and dance about the universal feeling of love at first sight that hit every box and went on to top the Hot 100 in both her home country and the States, where it ruled for 9 weeks. Call Me Maybe catapulted Jepsen into the limelight, and she was even nominated for 2 Grammys that year. It was the highest selling single of 2012, selling 12 million copies in that year alone. Jepsen would score her second top 10 hit, Good Time with Alice City, later in that year, and launched her second album, Kiss, to moderate success. Kiss unfortunately failed to spawn any hits that matched Call Me Maybe's impact, but it was praised for catchy hooks and being a sugary sweet confection, eventually winning Album of the Year and Best Pop Album at the Juno Awards in the following year. Carly would embark on a tour to support the record and then do a run on Broadway in Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella in the spring of 2014 before coming back the following year. Rather than just rushing the next record, Jepsen bided her time trying to figure out what direction to take. During her run on Broadway, she actually recorded an indie folk record as an act of rebellion, something that she would eventually scrap anyway. Her previous record, Kiss, was allegedly created in just 2 months to capitalize off Call Me Maybe, something that Carly just did not want to do again. Instead, she sought full creative control, ultimately drawing inspiration from her time in New York. She cited Prince and Madonna as rehearsal soundtracks, ultimately deciding on a 1980s style for the album due to the romance and fantasy of it all. Supposedly, an early title for this record was Eternal Summer, which had been taken off a song from the scrapped indie record. Carly would end up going to a wide bench of producers and fellow artists, seeking to perfect a blend between the mainstream pop that made her famous and an alternative edge. Vampire Weekend's Rostam worked with Jepsen over the summer of 2014 while she was doing sessions in LA, and they came up with deep cut Warm Blood. She would also spend a month in Sweden, where she co-wrote and came up with heavy hitters like I Really Like You, Your Type, and Run Away With Me. One notable producer on this album, Dev Hynes, was actually a skeptic in Jepsen until he learned that she had fallen in love with Solange's Losing You, and the two of them came together to form what would eventually become All That. And for those of you who don't know, Carly worked with current producing superstar Dan Nigro on the Standard Edition's closer When I Needed You, who had actually decided to add a more happier instrumental to contrast the somber lyrics. That song was co-produced with indie pop darling Ariel Rechtshaid, who had worked with Carly Rae Jepsen on All That as well. The music world is a lot smaller than you think. Carly Rae had actually discovered Ariel Rechtshaid through her love of Sky Ferreira's album, which had dropped at that time. One reason I think Emotion feels so fresh is that Carly's love for music and her own curiosity had driven this process. On the mainstream side, she worked with Sia and Greg Kurstin to finalize and perfect demos that she had written on tour, resulting in Boy Problems and Making the Most of the Night, a track that Sia had been working on with Haim, hence their credits on this record. Eventually, Emotion became a cultured mix of synth pop and new wave with some funk, disco, and house elements on select tracks. The title track Emotion in particular was not initially the title track, but eventually became that due to Carly's love of the song and the complexity of the concept. She was sold on the title once she found out how it was phonetically spelled, and the dictionary definition would find its way onto the now iconic cover art featuring Carly against black in a rainbow-colored sweater. The album was completed just before its release in Japan in June 2015, which is a great transition to why I think this rollout might actually be one of the worst in pop history. But before we talk about how it was the worst rollout ever, I want to give a special thanks to Coopert today. Coopert is a free, yes, free extension that you can use to save money when you shop online. Coopert has an amazing feature set. Coopert's automatic coupon testing will automatically find and apply the best coupon codes when you're checking out, so you get the lowest price possible. You can also use its price comparison feature to check if the same product is cheaper on another platform, on another retailer. That way you don't miss out on a better deal. And my favorite feature is the cashback rewards. If you activate an offer before you purchase, you get a portion of the commission deposited back into your account. You can get that through a PayPal, bank card, or a gift card. Coopert supports Chrome, Firefox, and Safari on desktop, as well as Safari on mobile, has 6 million weekly active users, and supports 200,000 merchants worldwide, helping you save money. Click the link in the description to install Coopert for free and start saving now. Thanks again, Coopert, and back to the video. And away from my face. So why do I consider this one of the worst pop rollouts in modern history? In hindsight, you can't say that there wasn't effort put into Emotion's rollout. The album's lead single, I Really Like You, dropped in March 2015 with a very big push that involved a music video starring Tom Hanks of all people, and even had label mate Justin Bieber in it. Also, she performed the song on TV on many shows, but unfortunately it stalled at just 39 on the Hot 100 despite hitting the top 3 in the UK. I felt like it was chosen as the lead single to replicate the magic of Call Me Maybe, hitting similar thematic beats despite having a completely different sound and production to it, but in hindsight it was not the smartest choice, especially if the goal was to get the general public to see Carly Rae Jepsen as more than the Call Me Maybe girl. Carly would drop a few promo singles like All That, which showcased a more mature side to the record. She even performed it on SNL alongside the lead in April of that year. Afterwards, Carly Rae's team threw everything at the wall. Days later, she released Boy Problems, which got a music video from Petra Collins and featured some it girls of the time. Neither of the songs charted or got her traction. Worse off was when her label released the album 2 months ahead of its US and international release in Japan on June 24, 2015. Some hardcore fans, including myself, consider that the true release date of the album because we were listening to the leaks and loving them. Carly Rae's team just continued to drop the ball big time, shooting off singles left and right with no real strategy. What should have been the lead single, Run Away With Me, dropped in July with a very fun low-budget video of Jepsen's travels throughout the world, and while the song tanked, it actually amassed many year-end and even best-of-decade listings, with some of it calling the song of the summer that got away, and others to this day calling it her best to date. By the time the album was ready to launch internationally on August 21st, 2015, we had 2 lead singles and 6 promo singles. 8 of the 12 standard tracks were already released, and if you were internet savvy, the album had been out for months. So it was no surprise that the album debuted at just 16 on the Billboard 200, selling just 16,000 units, ending the year with 36,000 units stateside. It underperformed in her home country of Canada, selling under 3,000 units in its first week. However, it did find success in Japan, eventually hitting gold the following year. The saving grace of this record was its critical acclaim, hitting 77 on Metacritic in a time where pop wasn't being praised by reviewers. Many big publications lauded this album as proof of Carly's talent at writing earworms and even pushing pop into something that felt more realized and emotional. This album would find itself on many year-end and decade-ends lists. Pace magazine even calls it the best pop album of the 2010s. Jepsen would embark on the Gimme Love tour from September to April of the following year, but Emotion lived longer on than that. Let's talk about the legacy of Emotion. If you were there when this album was gaining cult favorite status amongst the gays and the hipstery crowd, you will have realized that Jepsen may have lost the general public at the time, but she was amassing a devoted fan base that tunes in for anything that she makes. And when you think about it, that's actually more valuable than just getting charting records. Carly and her team would commemorate the album's fan favorite status through an EP the following year, Side B, 8 tracks that have been meant for the project but eventually cut off, including a rework of an anti-smoking ad song Store, which briefly went viral on Vine. Side B was also critically adored and continued building her a fan base. Because of Carly Rae's eventual cult favorite status, she's gone on to release more records like Dedicated in 2019, a detour away from Emotion sound, but something that borrows its Side B concept for its own companion record. That dual record theme was repeated on her last 2 albums, The Loneliest and The Loveliest Time, and will likely persist well into her career. I think the last big moment of the Emotion era of sorts was the official release of one of her now seminal songs, Cut to the Feeling, a song that was initially meant for the album but was eventually released on the soundtrack to Ballerina, an animated film that she had voiced a character in. That movie is long forgotten, but the song is well loved by fans and even spawned a meme, Give Carly Rae Jepsen a Sword. Carly Rae Jepsen, through Emotion, became something of a gay icon, finding regular appearances at pride parades, and even having a few of her songs, particularly Run Away With Me and Cut to the Feeling, become gay anthems. This is actually something I chalk to Emotion and Carly Rae's biggest strength and former weakness. Looking back, I think Emotion just didn't quite hit the general public because Carly Rae Jepsen was never able to cement herself as a celebrity. The closest comp in sound and tone to Emotion at the time was Taylor Swift's monumental 1989, another personal pop favorite of mine, which also evoked the 80s sound but definitely was boosted by Swift's profile and celebrity status at the time. Both of these albums are excellent records that touch on themes of heartbreak, reformation of self, and coming of age ideas, but through very different lenses. Where 1989 finds personality and pathos from its proximity to Taylor's own life and narrative, Emotion thrives because it's not quite tied to Carly herself. Emotion, on the other hand, feels very malleable. It feels like something that can fit into its listeners' own stories and journeys. Carly's music creates its own sense of relatability in its sense that the narrator feels anonymous. For example, when you hear Your Type, you're not thinking of a specific person that she sketched up. You're invited to imagine an archetype for her love interest, perhaps even your own love interest. It sort of harkens to the original nature of pop and how all of these songs are generic in the sense that you can subliminate yourself into these songs. Emotion really has this universal undertone to it. It's a collection of sporadic experiences filtered through Jepsen's sound and sensibilities, of course. Stories that feel like communal experiences in a way. You've probably had that one friend who will never shut up about her boy problems. You've wanted to get lost on a never-ending car ride with someone that you love. You have probably left a relationship, romantic or even platonic, because they weren't there for you when you needed them. And if you have not had these experiences yet, Carly makes you yearn for the day that you get to understand her, and I think that's why Emotions just remain so powerful even up to now. And now you have made it to my track by track, where I will cover every single song, including the expanded edition songs. Run Away With Me is just perfection. What can I say that no one else has ever said? From the opening saxophones to the charming escalation of the verses, this song deserves so much more than what it got. It has this sweeping, romantic edge to it. It feels very of its time in a way. The 2010s itself, looking back, felt like a time where anything was possible. There's this nostalgia of looking back towards the 80s, which itself weren't perfect as times either, but it was a time of excess in pop culture. This song feels like a lost relic cut from both of those times. Carly just floats elegantly on this. It has the siren-style delivery to it, though there's a quiet confidence on it that quietly grows throughout the song as she beckons her beloved to run away with her. Over the weekend, we could turn the world to gold is a perfect lyric, as are the lyrics, I'll be your sinner and secret and I'll be your hero and win it. Those two lines really encapsulate parallels in love. She can be the secret lover or the girl next door, but she just wants to be with this man. Emotion as a title track is so underrated. I do not see enough love for this song. I love the way that it flowers and it towers and it grows. There's this like organic synth to it that like serves as the backbone to the song. The repetition of 10 feet tall just really gets to me. And then that chorus, it's just so perfect. It's so sugary. In your fantasy, dream about me and all that we can do with this emotion. It just feels like this invitation into this world, into the sonic soundscape. It feels like a mantra. It feels like a ethos to this record. I know she said that she didn't imagine this as the title track, but I just cannot imagine a world where this is not the title track. And then I Really Like You as a single just did not really work for me, but as a track on its own, it's very strong. I can see why they chose it. I can really see the seeds of the song. If this is like a movie, this song would definitely play in like a montage where a character is flowering a crush on someone, recognizing that they have changed their opinion of a friend and they now see them as someone that they love. And I feel like the song does kind of pepper into what eventually becomes your type. And When I Needed You, you can really see the seeds of doubt in her mind, but this is like the precursor to those feelings. This is like the hopeful prelude to devastation. You can really hear the hope in her voice. Like, I really like you, and the sky doesn't quite know it yet. I'd say that Give Me Love is where this album starts to show its freakier side, at least in terms of production. I feel like this one isn't a straightforward pop track per se. There's like little tones of alternative in it. It still honors that pop structure, but you can really hear it just in the delivery and the experimental nature of it. The drums have a little bit of dirt to them. The delivery feels just a little desperate. I consider it one of the more underrated tracks. There's like a little shift in the melody towards the end, and you hear these ad-libs just give the song a second wind. All that is an all-time favorite of mine. I feel like this song has a very timeless quality that really transcends the record even. It very much feels like a song that you could hear playing late at night when you're picking up takeout food at a Chinese place at like 11 p.m. You're with the love of your life. They don't know it yet. You're just like waiting there in the lobby. You hear this very pretty synthy melody come in. The track itself just really feels cinematic. It feels like something that really, Dev Hynes just knows how to bring it in production. There's a very charming escalation to it. I feel like the soft little piano in the background adds this sort of like 80s power ballad feeling to it. Then you get Carly's kind of voice floating in there, and it just sounds so delicate. A lot of people that I know who I've recommended the album to don't like this track at first, but then it grows on them. Boy Problems really does feel like a Sia song, but in a way, Carly kind of like delivers the track in a way where you can tell that she's not quite singing from Sia's demo reference track. I love the little disco energy to it. I feel like it's sort of a prelude to the sounds that she would eventually work on in dedicated and future tracks. This song really came in handy at the time. Like, I hate to tell my own personal stories, but at the time when this album had come out, my friend had been in this long-term relationship and she would bitch and moan to me about her emotionally unavailable boyfriend. And this song got me through that, I was all like, I was about to send it to her, but I knew she'd get offended by the song. And that bridge, I just felt it, where she's just talking about giving and taking. I can see why they released this as a promo single, but even with a music video, I just feel like the timing of it was wrong. And then we get the other Sia track where you can really hear the Sia influences, mainly because I think this is the one track that Carly does not have writing credits on, making the most of the night. Even the way that she delivers the song, you can tell that she's trying to mimic Sia's delivery, but there's almost like a camp-like quality to it. Despite not writing the song, you can still kind of feel Carly's desperation, emotion, the quality of trying to make something out of this night. If emotion is about a specific person or like one specific love interest in her life, you can really get the sense that they're someone who, they've had a rough time and she's here to hijack them and love them while making the most of the night. She's aware of the emotional turmoil that this character has on her life. I feel like it's good narrative tissue. I still consider it one of the weaker tracks on the record, but the fact that this is one of the weaker tracks on the record is proof that this album's just really that strong. Your Type is one of my favorite Carly Rae Jepsen songs of all time. I feel like it perfectly captures the feeling of unrequited love. Carly herself jokingly has said before in the past that the song was about loving someone who ended up being gay. And that kind of does match the song's themes. Like, this person that she's singing about really just cannot love her back. Some have found it as a metaphor of sorts, using the music video as to her in the general public and being a pop star. Each verse really paints the story so well, but I really just adore that pre-chorus where she says, "I still love you, I'm sorry, I love you, I didn't mean to say what I said." You know, like, I just feel like that little apologetic regret is just, it's very honest to the song's, like, meaning. The chorus, "I'm not that type of girl for you, I'm not going to pretend, I'm the type of girl that you call more than a friend." I mean, that rhyme just feels so natural, and then she goes on about breaking all the rules, breaking her heart and starting again, but she knows that she's just not that girl. Towards the end, she integrates this lyric, "I'll make time for you," and it just really goes to show that, like, she's just not ready to let go of this love yet, even if she knows she can't have it, and that really just breaks your heart, because anyone who's been in that situation knows that, like, you're trying to wean off a crush, but you know that, like, if they call for you, you're gonna be there for them. In my previous video about emotion, I just kept on hammering in points about the song, but, like, years later, I still find it, like, one of the most gutting songs, one of the most relatable songs that she's ever had. "Let's Get Lost" is another favorite of mine. You know, the saxophone solo in the middle of it, the classic kind of like drive getaway vibes. Like, this is a song that you listen to when you're having the time of your life with someone that you love. That initial verse sets up that she's always been the flighty one, that she just cannot trust, and then that pre-chorus, you know, where she says, "You could be the one, you could be the one." And then finally we get this, like, chorus that's just so happy and effervescent and just, you know, just such a great contrast to Your Type, where she's just saying, "Baby, let's just get lost. I like that you're driving slow, keeping my fingers crossed that maybe you'll take the long way home," you know? Like, she just really keeps on lingering for that moment. The bridge on this one is actually pretty simple. Like, it's just her fighting against the saxophone vocally, saying "let's get lost" in a very sensual whisper before building up to, again, another euphoric final chorus. This song is so simple and elegant, and it really does capture the euphoria that you get when you're spending time with someone that you love. The summer this came out, I had actually been dating my first ever boyfriend at the time, and I will never forget the time that we went on a road trip and I played this song and he was vibing within, and he wasn't really a pop fan, he was like more into alt rock, like 1975 nonsense. And he was like, "This is a damn good song." And I was all like, "Yeah, it is a good song. It really is." And, like, I don't like that ex anymore, but I 100% just, like, always think of that one key memory. LA Hallucinations is one of the more freakier tracks on the record. I feel like this one doesn't really get its due. It's very of the time. There's lyrics here like BuzzFeed crows in it. It really captures what it was like to be in LA in 2015. I feel like the song is kind of hard to parse at first because it feels like a bunch of random gibberish and descriptions of, like, being out of place, being out of fish, and then clinging on to someone to make sense of where you are. But after living in LA myself, the song actually does make sense. It really is about the emptiness of the city, and more or less the emptiness of the ambitious nature of the city, and trying to, you know, further yourself and become famous and make the most of where you are. This song, in many ways, I think is kind of the proto-inspiration for her eventual song, Now I Don't Hate California After All. I totally butchered that title, but on Dedicated, there is a track, or Dedicated Side B, where she sings about not hating California anymore. And I feel like this song is sort of kind of like a hate anthem about how she just did not enjoy her time here. It's definitely one of the more risky songs, I think. I feel like it's definitely not a song that you will play to convince someone to listen to this record. It's one of the more hookier ones that took some time to really grow on me, but eventually did become one of my favorites for a time. Which brings me to Warm Blood, which at the time when it came out, I remember it was such a mixed response, and now it has kind of emerged as a fan favorite. Rostam produced it, and it's this very freaky, weird song. I feel like it has this really weird synthy vibe to it. It has this very passionate lyric structure that's about having a crush on someone, and it really does capture the carnal feeling of that. It almost feels like she's a vampire in a way, and I cannot control it the way that you're making me feel. Spinning in circles in your warm blood, and then the warm blood feels so good I can't control it anymore. It really does sound like she's singing about being a vampire and just wanting to like chew someone up. And in a way, is that not what having a crush feels like? You catch me when I'm falling for you is this post-chorus that really, like, adds another layer to it, but the way that's delivered and chopped up is just very jarring. I think the bridge really adds this cool kind of like pulsating energy to it, evoking the way that a heart pumps blood out. I feel like the strength of this track is the atmosphere that occupies it. It really does capture that frenetic mania and anxiety that you get when you're crushing on someone. The proper album closer, I consider it the album closer, is When I Needed You for the standard, and it's produced by Ariel Rechtshaid and Dan Nigro, as I mentioned earlier, which I think is why the song is just so good, because it has this very sad, somber, like lyrical vibe to it, contrasted by this kind of celebratory energy. When you read the lyrics, it's just so devastating because she's just relaying you about all the ways that like her ex-lover had failed her and just was not there for her, and she cannot be there for him because he was not there for her. I just really love the shouts in the background. You can tell that the song has been reworked because the lyrics just feel so sad. They feel like they would fit a folksy, sad instrumental, and then they're kind of retrofitted to feel celebratory. I think that the contrast between the instrumental and the lyrics is intentional to show the passage of time and essentially maturity of the character of emotion. Carly has kind of moved on, and she can now kind of look back on these times sort of in jest, but also with like a bittersweet sadness to it, like a happiness that she knows that she's no longer with this piece of shit, but also like a sadness that she wasted her time on this person who just could never give her what she needed. We get 3 deluxe tracks. Black Heart, which was produced by Greg Wells. I feel like this one is a bit of an underrated track. I understand why she cut it. It kind of feels like a sister track to Warm Blood. It kind of covers similar ground, except in this one, she's singing about how in his Black Heart, she will be found cutting through the cracks of the concrete. Like, it's very glitchy. You can tell that this is a track about waiting for someone who is unavailable to come to her. You're My Miracle kind of like contrasts Black Heart, which you imagine would be dead. So her love kind of brings this guy back to life in a way, and she knows that he's going to come back to her. It's very abstract and odd, but I do appreciate it now. I didn't just come here to dance. Now this one's a banger. I wish this one had been on the standard album, but I feel like she didn't put it on there because there were enough dancey tracks on it, but it's very obvious, you know. I didn't just come here to dance, if you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean? I just love the very tongue-in-cheek innuendo of it. It has this classic gay dance floor vibe to it. You know, the pre-chorus where she's like, hey, Joe's calling me over, Tino's calling me over. Those are the producers on this album, or I guess the co-writers on the song, and I just love the tongue-in-cheek nature of it. Like, it's just a very simple, straightforward track about, you know, just wanting to beckon someone to come over and, you know, take a chance on her. But then we got the deluxe's closer, which I actually really love. I think Favorite Color, I would actually rank it in my top 5 Carly Rae tracks. I just feel like it's romantic. It's so well made, so well written. Mattman and Robin had produced it. She really just knows how to describe this feeling of a love becoming serious. Please don't go, look real close, eyes that show, kaleidoscopes on the pre-chorus. Just some of her most beautiful writing to date. She compares being close to this person to blending into her favorite color, you know, her favorite color being bright baby blue. It is so romantic. just really, like, such a nice closer to the album to kind of contrast the Runaway with Me, to kind of make the love story feel complete, because when it ended on When I Needed You, it just feels like a bummer. And even in the song, there are some clever moments, like the little paint me up innuendo in the bridge. I did not see it as a sexual thing, but then a friend of mine pointed it out, and I was all like, wait, no, I see the vision. There's just something very classic and timeless to this track that I just don't find on the rest of the album, despite thinking that of most of the songs. Like, there's this, like, element to it. It really does evoke the cover art of the album, in my opinion. I feel like this track probably could be, like, if there was another title for Emotion, I feel like Favorite Color would weirdly fit it. I don't know. Like, I just love this track that much. And of course, I have to talk about the two Japanese edition tracks, which were finally released legally on streaming 5 years ago for the 5-year anniversary: Never Get to Hold You and Love Again. Never Get to Hold You is very underrated. I always found this one to be one of my favorites when I listen to it. It has a very nice wobbling bass kind of structure to it. It's a slow disco track. It's the type of song that you play when the evening is coming to a close and you just want to hold on to your nearest dance partner and slow dance and rock with them. I recall I had a friend tell me that Carly Rae Jepsen sings as if she loves like a gay man loves, and this is never more obvious than that chorus. I never get to hold you as long as I want to. You're all that I need. You're all that I need. I mean, just like the desperation of it, but the weird vulnerability of it. There's like almost something camp about it, and I don't mean to offend with that previous statement, but like a friend of mine just really keeps on hammering that point to me. And the song, I always think of that point that my friend made. The pre-chorus in particular, Until I Saw You in That Thunderstorm, I Didn't See You, just the imagery of that is just so striking. It's very somber, it's very underrated. And then we get that closing track, Love Again, which is like the third official closer of this album, and I think it is a perfect track to end on. It has this very campy, happy, positive vibe to it that really channels some of the influences from Kiss. I feel like this track actually might have come from the Kiss sessions, but then got reworked, I'm not sure. It's like very earnest. I mean, the chorus is open up your heart to the ceiling. Don't you know it hurts for a reason? Time will take you back to believing you'll learn to love again. Like, it's just so like on the nose. It feels like a Disney Channel song, yet the way that she sings it has this like genuity to it. And I feel like the production really does sell it. Like the way that the synths beep in and out, they just really feel organic to the song's message. They feel like punctuation marks, exclamation points, almost like emojis of a sort to the song's lyrics. Compared to the other closers, Favorite Color and When I Needed You, I feel like this one's actually the weakest one, but I do appreciate this track as a bonus track. Overall, if you made it to this point, you've heard me speak about Emotion for nearly 30 minutes, and honestly, I could speak about this album for 5 hours. It is one of my favorite albums of all time. I think that it really embodies, emulates, builds on, like it really does so much on top of that 80s inspiration, and I feel like it's one of the best records of the 2010s, possibly ever of all time. And I don't mean that as a hyperbole, I really do feel that way. This album is an eternal 10 out of 10 for me, just an absolute classic. It is one of the seminal albums that made me a fan of the pop genre. If you're subscribed to me and you haven't listened to it yet, I recommend you do listen to it. It is one of my favorite albums of all time. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning into this super-sized video essay covering one of my favorite albums of all time. Let me know in the comments what your favorite tracks were off Emotion, if you've listened to the album, what you would rate the album. Like, just, spread your love below in the comments about this album. Like, let's give it a round of applause there. I want to give a quick shout out to my members. Thank you so much for joining this channel and taking that extra step. A shout out to my subscribers. I love all of you guys. Thank you so much. Whether you joined yesterday, today, 5 years ago, whenever this channel was made, I appreciate you and I do this for you. So thank you. I have another anniversary of sorts. I won't spoil who it is, but I feel like a lot of you guys will also like that one. So feel free to hit subscribe if you haven't, hit that notification bell so you know when my videos are coming. A shout out to my sponsor. Thank you so much for supporting my videos. I hope to see you next video.